That's for talking tough and playing with me.
Hello guys, what's going on guys? This is your channel TFD coming back with breaking news hot off the press. So it looks like Alyssa Thomas's assault on Caitlin Clark has not gone unnoticed. She will be suspended for physically harming and choking Caitlin Clark after the game yesterday. The WNBA has released a statement 28 seconds ago. Let's jump into it right now. It's been reported that Phoenix Mercury's Alyssa Thomas receives a flagrant foul 2 penalty and a 1-game suspension. June 25th, upon post-game review, Phoenix Mercury's Alyssa Thomas has received a flagrant 2 penalty and a 1-game suspension for recklessly making contact with her fist to the throat of Indiana Fever guard Caitlin Clark. It was announced today by the WNBA. The incident for which Thomas was deemed to have committed a non-basketball act occurred with 6.52 seconds remaining in the second quarter of the Mercury's game, a 111-109 win over the Fever last night at Gainbridge. Now, the WNBA League has the option following its review of any game to classify a flagrant foul, to classify as flagrant any foul not called as such during a game, and may impose a fine or suspension. So it looks like Alyssa Thomas will serve her suspension on June 27th when the Mercury play the Tempo. I honestly can't believe I'm sitting here making this video, but the WNBA has officially done something that a lot of people thought they weren't going to do. The WNBA came out and released an official statement that says, upon post-game review, Phoenix Mercury's Alyssa Thomas has received a flagrant 2 penalty and a 1-game suspension for recklessly making contact with her fist to the throat of Indiana Fever guard Caitlin Clark. And when I first saw that announcement, my immediate reaction was shock. Not because I didn't think the play deserved punishment. Quite the opposite. I'm shocked because I genuinely didn't think the WNBA was going to go this far. I thought they would review it, maybe upgrade it, maybe issue a statement, maybe hand out a fine and move on. Instead, they actually suspended Alyssa Thomas. And whether you think the punishment is enough or not, that is a significant development. Because, let's be honest here, the WNBA has taken criticism for how it has handled similar situations in the past. The first thing that came to my mind was the Kennedy Carter situation. I think they completely messed up the Kennedy Carter situation. I think they bottled it. I think most fans would agree they bottled it. A play that many people believed was suspension-worthy ended up being treated far more lightly than expected. It was called a common foul during the game and later upgraded to a flagrant 1. For a lot of fans, that simply wasn't enough. So when this Alyssa Thomas decision came down, it felt different. For the first time, it feels like the league looked at a controversial incident involving Caitlin Clark and said, no, we're not just going to move on from this. That's why this matters. Now, do I think 1 game is enough? No, personally, I don't. I think 1 game is extremely light. I think 1 game is the absolute minimum punishment the league could have handed out while still saying they took action. But at the same time, it's still something. And that's important because for months, and honestly, for years, one of the biggest criticisms from fans has been that there appears to be no real deterrent when things cross the line. Now, the league has officially admitted that what happened was serious enough to warrant a suspension. That matters. It sends a message. Maybe not the strongest message in the world, but it sends one. And let's be honest, this story had become national news. People weren't just talking about it on WNBA social media. People weren't just talking about it in basketball circles. Major sports shows were discussing it. ESPN was discussing it. Stephen A. Smith was discussing it. The story was everywhere. When you have a situation involving Caitlin Clark generating that level of attention, eventually the league is going to be forced to respond. And I think that's exactly what happened here. The WNBA probably looked at the reaction and realized they couldn't simply ignore it. Now, another aspect of this whole situation that people were discussing was the social media response, specifically the Phoenix Mercury post involving DeWanna Bonner. A lot of people felt that post was incredibly tone-deaf. A lot of people felt it completely missed the moment. And judging by the reaction, it appears the organization realized that pretty quickly because the post was eventually deleted. That's why the backlash became such a major story. When even people who normally don't agree on Caitlin Clark-related topics are criticizing something, you know you've got a problem. When people across different sides of the debate are all looking at something and saying, yeah, that wasn't a good look, that's usually a sign. And that's what happened here. Now, let's talk about the suspension itself, because while I'm glad action was taken, I still think one game is weak. I really do. One game feels like the bare minimum. It's better than nothing. I'll keep saying that. It's better than nothing. But if you're asking me what punishment actually fits the situation, I think it should have been more than one game. 7 games? No, I think 7 games is way too much. When you consider the length of a WNBA season, 7 games is a massive punishment. That's probably the equivalent of something much larger in the NBA. I don't think that's realistic. But 3 games? 3 games feels reasonable. 3 games feels like a punishment that acknowledges the seriousness of the incident while still being proportional. And then you have to factor in Alyssa Thomas's history. That's another reason some people are arguing for a harsher punishment. When fans point to previous incidents and previous aggressive plays, it naturally becomes part of the discussion.
Whether the league considered that or not, fans certainly did. Now, here's another point that people keep bringing up: the game itself. The Indiana Fever ended up losing by 2 points. And because the play was ultimately upgraded after the game, there are fans looking back and saying that the decision had a direct impact on the outcome. A flagrant 2 means free throws and possession. That's significant. Those are game-changing consequences. So while you can't technically go back and change the final score, it's understandable why some Fever fans feel frustrated. They feel like the proper call wasn't made in the moment. And honestly, that's another reason this entire controversy exploded. If officials had gone to the monitor during the game and reviewed everything properly, maybe we're not even having this discussion. Maybe the situation gets handled immediately and everyone moves on. Instead, it lingered, the debate continued, the replay circulated everywhere, and eventually the league had to step in. That's why people are criticizing the officials. Many fans believe the play was obvious enough that a review should have happened immediately. Now, another thing people keep mentioning is how different the reaction might have been if the roles were reversed. If the image that went viral had shown Caitlin Clark on top of Alyssa Thomas, do people think the reaction would have been different? A lot of fans clearly believe it would have. That's why emotions have been running so high around this story. Whether you agree or disagree with that argument, it's become a huge part of the conversation, and that's not going away anytime soon. Now, I also saw people bringing up coaches like Becky Hammon and Cheryl Reeve, the argument being that if something similar happened to one of their star players, they would have been furious, they would have been demanding answers, they would have been making their voices heard immediately. Again, whether you agree with that comparison or not, it shows just how emotional this discussion has become. Because people aren't only debating the suspension anymore. They're debating officiating. They're debating league consistency. They're debating player treatment. They're debating media coverage. Everything has become part of the conversation. And honestly, that's what happens whenever Caitlin Clark is involved. Every story becomes bigger. Every controversy becomes bigger. Every debate becomes bigger. That's just the reality right now. As for Alyssa Thomas, she's now officially suspended. The decision has been made, the league has spoken. And while some people think the punishment is too harsh and others think it's far too lenient, the fact remains that action was taken. That's the headline. The WNBA reviewed the play, the WNBA upgraded the punishment, and the WNBA suspended Alyssa Thomas. Whether that's enough is going to be debated for a long time, but compared to some previous situations, this is at least a step toward accountability. We'll see where things go from here. We'll see how fans react, we'll see how the Phoenix Mercury respond, we'll see how the Indiana Fever respond, and we'll see whether this becomes a turning point for how the league handles situations involving Caitlin Clark moving forward.
But for now, the decision is official. Alyssa Thomas has been suspended. Let me know what you think down below. Was one game enough? Should it have been more? Or do you think the WNBA got this one right? Don't forget to like, comment, subscribe, and I'll see you guys in the next video.